Yeah, tell her yes. Connecting.
Een Zoom ding op my foon doen. Maar nou,
Zoals my Valentine's getest.
sorry. Net my ek wil net wag net en my mute hierso net.
Morning, colleagues. It's Tandeka here from Bridge. I had just requested that while we wait, we're going to start very shortly. Can colleagues please in the chat put your name, your surname, your email address, or your cell phone number if you don't have an email address. Please, colleagues, may we just mute ourselves so that we're not audible to the rest of the COP members while we are in the process of the meeting. Good morning, colleagues. I think think we are all here now and we can start the meeting. Thank you everybody for joining us. My name is Thandeka. I'm the ECD project manager from Bridge. I'm going to kindly request colleagues, can we please turn our videos off? And can we please also mute ourselves, except if we are not talking, because that will make our meeting flow much, much easier. Also, Lizzie, I see you are on video. Can you please stop your video? Because that will help us with connection during the meeting. We will all be able to hear each other. Thank you, colleagues. Colleagues, I've just asked, I'm going to ask for the last time, if you could please include your name, your surname, and your email address or your cell phone number if you don't have an email address in the chat.
Buisiwe Ngwenya 0781123.
Thank you, Buisiwe. Can you please write it in the chat? It will take very long if we have to do it verbally. Our time is limited.
I must write it. Okay, thank you.
Please write it in the chat. Welcome, colleagues. Today, the purpose of the meeting is to have an information session on the ECD Employment Stimulus Relief Fund. As you have heard, the DSD has officially announced and launched this assistance that would be made available to ECD practitioners. So today we're going to have the Department of Social Development and someone from the Project Management Office talking to us, addressing us and giving us more information about this, this stimulus package, and more importantly about the application process. And so for us today, colleagues, as Bridge, we would really like to make use of this opportunity. First of all, to give you a platform to have the information so that you can apply for this funding. We all know that it's been very difficult for us in the ECD sector, particularly for ECD practitioners, you who are working directly with children on the ground. And so we would really like for you to make use of the opportunity to apply as soon as possible, because time is of the essence. And more importantly, because you are here, meaning you are able to access information, we really would like to make a call to you to reach those you know are not able to have the kind of access that you have, whether it is to the online application or to the information that we have on hand. And so really, colleagues, this is just a social solidarity call to say, please, let's make use of our networks, let's make use of our resources to help each other and to ensure that we can assist each other through this time. We as Bridge are also quite open to any ideas. If you have any ideas on how we could be of assistance to people who are outside of our reach, please let us know so that we can assist each other promptly, because the 19th of February is just around the corner. And so, colleagues, I would just like to introduce our speakers for today. We have Mpopha Pale from the Department of Social Development. We have Zahira Mohammed, who's part of the DGMT Project Management Office. And we also have Sumaya Hendricks, who will also be talking to us today around the SCSD application. And so without any further ado, I think we can get started into the meeting. Ausimpo, are you ready?
Yes, Thandeka, I'm ready. Good morning.
Good morning. I think, Ausimpo, what we can do, so I'm going to switch off my video, and I think it's perhaps just to introduce yourself, you could just have your video on for a while and then we can switch it off.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. My name is Mpopha Pale from the Department of Social Development in the Chief Directorate, Early Childhood Development and Partial Care, and under the Welfare Services branch. Thanks.
Like Michael, CEO, and I'm
Thank you, Ausimpo. I think you can start with the introduction to the stimulus package. Should I put on the presentation?
No, the presentation, it will be the one that will be done, the general one that will be done. Mine is just to take you through the processes, just to introduce
Come on, man.
I'm Paul. You are speaking muted.
Yeah, Mpo, you are muted.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Good day, everyone. But did you hear me when I introduced myself?
Yes.
Yes, I think you can
Oh,
continue
okay.
from there.
What I was saying, everyone, good morning to our partners, to the NPOs, and also to the bridge community. And from the department, we are working together with the project management team that is assisting in terms of making sure that we implement and we successfully make sure that our beneficiaries, our ECD services, are accessing this stimulus package. And our other members of the PMO, they'll be talking and taking us through the stimulus package itself. Just to say that this is a presidential stimulus package that we received as an ECD sector, where we are given funding so that we support our ECD workforce. As you know, that the pandemic COVID-19, it had an impact on our sector, where some of our or most of our ECD programs are closed because of the pandemic. And the stimulus package, we received it. It was announced during July. Through, as we know, most of us, we had that we got the 1.3 billion that was allocated to ECD sector. But what we did as a department, and also as you know, that there are processes within government that we need to engage on so that we access the funding that we received. And we had, as the Department of Social Development, go to National Treasury and bid for that funding. And the amount that was allocated, it was no longer the 500 and the 1.3 billion. We had an allocation which is plus minus 500 million. And the budget that we got, it was divided into different components so that we can support the ECD workforce. There's a budget allocation that was provided in terms of making sure that we cover the cost, the employment of 333,000 ECD workers, so that we can support them and also make sure that they access the grant. And out of that, we also have the 25,500 ECD workers who will perform the mandatory work where they'll be as COVID-19 compliance officers. So the budget that we are talking about is 496 million. So we want to make sure that our ECD services are accessing this and it benefits them. So my colleagues will take you through what is the stimulus package that we are having, and also the processes that we went through, because the funding, we got it in October after we had bid to National Treasury, and we are supposed to implement that within 6 months, and it was already October, and time is not on our side. We had to engage and develop the tools and also develop the policy that will guide us in terms of implementation of the stimulus package. So we'll hear today in terms of the requirements, in terms of what you need to do to apply. And as we know that this was launched on Friday, where ECD services can apply for the stimulus package. And just to say that as a department, we cannot do this alone, and we know that our sector is NPO based, where the NPOs are providing the services. So we need to work together as a team to make sure that we achieve. Hence, we are also involving our Intersectoral Forum that is also assisting and also being part of the project management office for the stimulus package. And we're looking forward to working well together. And as we know that the time frames, they are very short, and we need to work hard and make sure that by the end of this financial year, we have been able to access the funding, and our ECD services have benefited from the stimulus package. And we're looking forward to this day and also to this session, where we'll be sharing more information in terms of the stimulus package. Thank you very much, partners and colleagues.
Thank you, Ausimpo. Thank you for that introduction. I think we can then just move right ahead into the presentation. Zahira, are you ready?
Yes, I am. Can I
Okay.
go straight into it?
Yes, you can share your screen with us.
Okay, Tandeka, will you let me know when you can see my screen?
Sorry about that. Yes, Zahira?
Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay, good. All right, good. Good morning, everyone. My name is Zahira. I work for an organization called Ilifa Labantwana. That's my day job, which I haven't had the privilege of doing since I've been involved in the stimulus package. I'm now here in a different capacity, where I was deployed to support DSD through a program or project management office to just help get the stimulus package up and running. So it's a collaborative effort between the state and a few parties in the nonprofit sector, just to provide some kind of technical support, or the policy decisions largely being driven by the department per se. Before I get straight into the presentation, I also just want to use the opportunity to say thank you to the sector. Thank you to all of you who are sitting here taking the time out to listen to this presentation, because without your voices, without you doing your bits by participating in the 2 or 3 surveys that we've asked you to fill in, by participating in some of the ECD workforce campaigns that have been done, without your support in terms of that, all of that has contributed to getting us to this point where we have a stimulus package. So, so this is just a little comfort to say that while we sometimes feel we make so much of effort, no one listens to us. This is one type of an example where the sector has been heard, and your mobilization and your ability to get your voices heard has really helped get us to a point where we have some allocation that can benefit our ECD workforce. So from me to you, I just really want to say thank you. What I'm going to do today is that I'm going to start off by going through explaining what the stimulus package is about, what some of the requirements are. When I'm done with my session, one of my colleagues, Kyan, is going to take you through a walkthrough to take you through how the application form looks and how that needs to be completed. He will be followed through by Sumaya Hendricks, which will take you through how to complete the central supplier database, which is a requirement to be able to be eligible for this funding. So that's just how the flow is going to work. I will pause when I'm done with my session and just get a sense from Tandeka whether we should take questions or whether it may make more sense to take all the presentations and then take questions, because they do kind of feed into each other. All right. So I'm going to get straight into it. So in terms of the what is the purpose of the presidential employment stimulus for ECD? So what's important to understand is that this is an emergency relief intervention. And by making it an emergency relief intervention, it required us to be able to adopt and design a system to be able to get the fund up and running and to disperse the money, because the department does not have a current relief or emergency system in place to get the money out. It requires us to go back to the drawing board with the state and to be able to design basically a system. The key aim of this, because it's part of the presidential employment stimulus for ECD, the focus of the fund is around employment. Therefore, when we talk about the purpose, we basically say it's aimed at supplementing the income that ECD services basically generate. And the way we want to supplement the income is by telling ECD sites, this fund is there to help you subsidize the cost of your employment. And we're hoping by doing that, it will help with the restoration of the provision of ECD services. It will help with continued operation, and we hope it will reduce the risk of permanent closure. Based on some of the numbers that have been run, the budget allows us to basically more or less target 108,000 ECD workers with income support.
Let me know when you're done.
Apologies about that. Zahira,
yes?
People are requesting if we could put the presentation on slideshow so they can have a full view of it. Sorry to disturb you. And then lastly, colleagues, we need to mute ourselves if we're going to have this meeting running smoothly. Otherwise, we're just going to have disturbances all around. Please mute yourselves. Thank you.
Tendeka, is the screen reflecting correctly on your side?
Yes.
Yes, okay, I'm going to continue. So up in front of you, it is a very, very high level project outline. The call for application is a short call. The reason why it's a short call Tendeka?
Zahira, we can hear you. We just lost you for a second there.
Okay, I was muted. So whoever's doing the muting muted me. So as long as you can hear me.
Apologies.
Okay, so the call for application is a short call. The reason for that is that all applications need to be processed and approved and paid out by about mid-March, because that's the way the government funding cycle works. So because of that, applications opened on the 5th of February and is closing on the 19th of February. So we've got to make sure all applications are in by the 19th of February. The next phase is then whoever put in an application that still needs to be verified. The verification process is going to be running from the 8th to the 26th. So verification can happen as soon as applications come in. One sites are basically, the documentation is verified, and the sites are verified through the Central Application Office. Payment batches will start being processed and sent to provinces from the 22nd of February basically onwards. And then from April moving forward, we'll move into some kind of monitoring phase. The next part is who can apply. So the eligibility criteria, I'm going to take you through the eligibility criteria, right? And this comes straight from either the policy documents and what has been published by the department. ECD services that are fully or conditionally registered are eligible, and those that are unregistered are also eligible, right? So this is one of those moments where the department has come forward to say we acknowledge the need of unregistered sites. It's a relief intervention. Therefore, registration is not a criteria to determine who gets and who doesn't get the fund. So yeah, it's very clear. There's been lots of confusion, lots of memes going around on social media. So I just want to make it clear: registered, conditionally registered, and fully registered. All those categories qualify for the fund. All different types of ECD programs qualify, as you can see in front of you. Center-based, playgroups, toy library, childminders, and mobile ECD programs. What's also important to note is that some of the rules and the requirements have changed. So basically, those of you that get the ECD, normal ECD subsidy, you know what it means to apply for it. You know you must sign a service level agreement, you must be a registered NPO, etc. Don't get confused by what you normally do and what the normal requirements are for the ECD subsidy. This has a different set of requirements. And one thing that I want to point out is that your ECD service does not have to be a registered NPO to be able to benefit from this service, right? Those that are registered just need to basically give us your NPO number, but it's not the requirement basically to be NPO registered. Those that are unregistered, while you are eligible and while you can apply for this fund, by participating in this scheme and by filling in that application form, you are committing yourself to be registered. So by entering, so those sites for whatever reason who feel they cannot register for whatever reason, then by filling in this application, you have to think twice before you complete this application form, because part of the conditions of completing this form is to commit to say, I commit myself to being registered, to be able to start basically the registration process. The ECD program, the ECD Relief Fund, is also what's important to know is that it is targeted at an ECD service, right? So while the purpose of the fund is to support employment, you as an individual staff member cannot basically apply. Those who operate as single providers or single operators, so if I, Zahira, am running an ECD program, of whether it's a playgroup, a center, a toy library, I don't employ any staff, it's just me with my 12 children, then I can apply on my behalf because I'm the owner, I'm the manager, I operate the center. If I'm Zahira and I have 3 staff members, my 3 staff members cannot apply. I've got to apply on their behalf. So therefore, the ECD service is the one that has to put in the application, not the staff members, right? The other thing that's important to understand or to note is that anyone that is employed at your site can be paid this benefit. So while it's an ECD relief fund, it is not only targeted at the ECD practitioner or the playgroup facilitator. If we employ a cook or an administrator or a gardener, once you get the money, if you apply and you get the money, you're allowed to pay that money to anybody that's working at your ECD program that contributes to the operation of the ECD program. However, the fund can only be used towards the payment of their salaries, wages, stipends, whatever the terminology is that you use at your site. You cannot use that money to buy PPE or to buy food or to pay for anything else, because it's an employment stimulus. That money has to be used towards the cost of employment and basically paying your staff. Another thing that's important to point out is that, so we've spoken about who's eligible, and we've said that an ECD service can directly apply, and basically once they apply and get the money, pay the money over to their staff. We've also acknowledged the ECD sector the makeup of the ECD sector is extremely diverse, and this includes the different types of employment arrangements. So basically, an ECD service that runs multiple different types of ECD programs can apply for those programs, can apply on the individual program's behalf. So, I mean, whether it's so if I'm an ECD NGO and I run 10 playgroups, I can apply on behalf of all those 10 playgroups per se. What we're also saying is that for those that, if you have written arrangements in place, so I'm an ECD NGO, I've worked in the ECD space for the past 5 years. My role is I support playgroups, I support ECD sites, I help them establish themselves, I check on them every week, I give them learning material, I help them develop their program. I coach them. I mentorship them. I walk with them side by side. The only thing I don't do is I don't employ their staff directly. We leave them to do their own staffing arrangements. But I've got that long-term arrangement with them. My job as an ECD NGO is to help them run the entire program. I've got a long-term relationship with them. I've got a written agreement between myself and the 50 ECD programs I oversee, which explains my role, their role. The written agreement explains the type of relationship I have. In those instances, I can also apply on behalf of those small ECD sites that I am supporting. However, if I am doing that, if I'm applying on behalf of multiple ECD programs, then me as an ECD NGO, I must be registered as an NPO, because by doing that, I'm going to be receiving the money. It's my job to disburse the money. Therefore, from a compliance perspective and a safety check, it's only fair that I need to have a good standing. I must have my proper governance arrangements in place. Therefore, for me as the NGO doing this on behalf of multiple programs, I must be registered as an NPO. If you're an ECD center, if you're a playgroup facilitator, if you're a day mother applying for this on your own, then under those circumstances, you don't need to be NPO registered. The other requirement for ECD organizations who are overseeing and applying on behalf of multiple sites, they've got to go through another process where they've got to submit, and Rex, I think, is on this call today, and he can take any questions that are now, this is going to be managed. There's got to be these sites or these ECD NGOs have got to get an endorsement letter from the Intersectoral Forum, where the Intersectoral Forum acknowledges them and basically says, yes, I know about this site. I acknowledge that they exist, number one, and I acknowledge that they oversee multiple programs. That's basically the job of what the requirement is from the Intersectoral Forum, as just an extra layer of some kind of confidence level per se. And the Rex's information is on the slide. He's the one that will be managing basically that process on behalf of the Intersectoral Forum. What's important to know for these types of organizations, if you're applying on behalf of multiple programs or multiple sites, you are the contracting body. You are putting in that application. So in short, the buck stops with you. You are responsible for all the compliance requirements. You are responsible for making sure you get the information from all those sites from a monitoring perspective. You can't go back to government to say, I applied on behalf of ABC. ABC didn't give me this. ABC didn't do that. ABC didn't give the staff to their money. You will be held liable for everyone that you apply on behalf of. So in terms of where do you apply? So there's currently two mechanisms, right? The one is on the GovChat portal. This has been launched and it's basically live. It's 0 rated on MTN and can be accessed basically on your mobile devices where applicants can upload their documents. An application form will be developed, published, and promoted by the National and Provincial Department of Social Development, which is basically another mechanism for which you can use to apply. At a later point, when I'm done with my session, as I said, my colleague Kine will take you through the GovChat portal, and he can talk a little bit about the web application form as well. So just to reiterate again, what do you need to apply? So in terms of some of the details that you need when you put in your application, right? So and this is quite important because this features at the beginning of the application form, but as I said, you'll see this when you go through the application form. So all ECD programs putting in an application, you must have a bank account, number one, but you can't have any bank account. So again, I, Zahira, am running ABC ECD service. The bank account must be opened in the name of ABC. The bank account can't be opened in the name of Zahira. So if Zahira puts in an application and Zahira puts in Zahira's bank details as part of this, as part of the verification process, where you say ABC is the name of the provider, but Zahira's banking details are there, this application is going to get stuck. You're not going to be able to move forward, right? We are busy doing some work and some research around banking products. We don't have, it's not advanced yet enough to share. As soon as that's done, we will distribute it through the networks so that all of you are aware of all the different types of appropriate banking products that are available that you can use or share with your networks to help them basically open up the appropriate bank account. But as long as it's clear, the bank account can't be opened in your own personal name. It's got to be opened in the name of the service. The second key criteria is that ECD services that are currently not receiving funding from provincial governments, they need to register on government central supplier database. Okay, the registration number, which is it will be an M number. You'll see when it's generated, there will be an M in front of it. It will be generated from the database, and that number is required for your application. Sumaya will take you through that process when we when we're done here. So those two are very those two. Why we put that up front is because those two criteria are the two criteria that are from our perspective probably the most strange or the most foreign to ECD providers, because very few of them, apart from those that are operating as center-based established programs, have business bank accounts. We're aware of the fact that many of them do not have business bank accounts. So therefore, we need to be able to make it very clear and make the communication clear that you've got to set up that account in the name of your site, not your personal bank account. And secondly, you've got to start familiarizing our providers around the central supplier database as a registration requirement. So when you put in your application, what are some of the other things that you need? So you must make sure that when you fill in the application, it's going to ask you for the names and identity numbers of people that are in your employ that will benefit from the stimulus package. Therefore, make sure you have the information ready when you apply. You need the names and either the identity number, permit number, or basically any official number that you got from Home Affairs, because this is not only, we've done a check, and the advice we got is that from a constitutional perspective, it can't only be South African citizens that apply, it's anyone that's in the country legally that has whatever documentation from Home Affairs, they're allowed to apply, which is why it reads either identity number, permit number, or whatever reference number you get from Home Affairs. You need this for the applicant, the person that's applying, as well as for all the staff members that you're applying on behalf that will get this, that you will transfer this money to. There will be a process where the applicant and some of these details will be checked against Home Affairs database. It's critically important that whatever you put in here by way of name and identity number are the same as what's in the identification documentation. Otherwise, it will kick up errors when we do compliance and verification checks against the Home Affairs system. The application is also requiring you to be able to note down the staff qualifications. You need to know the age breakdown of children in the ECD service. You're going to need to know the registration number. If you are registered as an NPO, if you're not registered as an NPO, then you don't put in a number. For those of you that are operating as businesses, and if you have a CIPC number, you need to put in that number. If you don't, you just move on. Then if you are registered or conditionally registered with the Department of Social Development, then you need to be able to upload and attach your registration certificate. It can either be your program registration certificate or your partial care registration certificate. It's what we want to emphasize here is it's got to be an ECD form of registration. If you are registered as an NPO and upload your NPO registration certificate for this, that is not the right thing to do. What we're interested in here, because why we need to do that is that we need to basically then, because those of you that say you are registered, you're automatically considered as being verified. So therefore, we need to be able to confirm and check that your registration certificate is appropriate and is right, that we can put you into we can basically put you in a verification category to say tick box, you are verified. So therefore, it's important that we get that certificate for us to be able to classify you as verified, right? So you don't have to, so this will help speed up the application process, right? Applicants that are applying for multiple ECD programs, that NGO example that I used basically earlier on, this is just repeating that you need to be able to get the letter from the Intersectoral Forum that needs to be uploaded with your application, as well as the registration certificate needs to be attached. So just some other general information for registered ECD services. Make sure that the name of the service that you put on the application is the same name that's on your registration certificate, and also the same name on your bank account. If you're going to have a different name in the application, a different name on the bank account, and a different name on your registration certificate, it's going to cause a problem, and Kyan can just respond to this when he does his presentation in the application, but your whole application may be kicked out because there's too many errors. It will kick up or red flag that there's fraud in the system. So we've got to pay attention to make sure how we fill in the application and make sure it's as correct as possible. And as I said, I can't articulate this enough, make sure that when you're entering names in multiple places, make sure it is the same name, no comma, no dot, no extra S anywhere, because then it's going to come up as different names, right? Again, as I'm saying, proof of registration needs to be uploaded onto the system. Make sure when you fill in that application, all the declarations are signed off on. You'll see when we go through the application, there's declarations that you need to basically open your service within 60 days. You've got to, if you are unregistered, you've got to commit to registration. There's an assurance certificate attached to the application, which basically where you do an undertaking to basically commit to saying, I've got all my financial management practices are in place. You've got to be registered on the central supplier database if you're not receiving funding from the department, and the application form requires you to on your application form. For those that are unregistered, so for unregistered sites, obviously you cannot attach an ECD program or partial care registration certificates, right? You are going to be checked and verified against the Vangasali database, right? So please make sure, again, from a naming perspective, and I hope you can remember this, but if there's any way you can just check and confirm the name you captured in the Vangasali campaign when you put your information forward, please make sure you use that exact name in your application, okay? For those unregistered sites that did not participate in Vangasali, don't fret. You are still eligible. You will just go through a different verification process where the NGO partners will have to come out and physically verify that your program exists, right? And again, those who are unregistered, there's what we call an abridged Form 16. Form 16 is a registration form that's attached to ECD program registration. It's the form required and designated by the Children's Act that you fill in to be registered. There's an abridged form that's part of the application process, which basically by completing that, you basically agree to start the registration process, and you start entering some of that information already as part of this application process. The rest of the requirements, CSD, all the declarations that need to be signed off, those are things that need to be there whether you're registered or unregistered, right? Those are standard requirements. Just some extra things again around if you're an organization applying on behalf, we have to put in extra requirements. The only things that are different, I'm not going to repeat myself, you can see it in front of you. You must have been in operation for more than 3 years. You must have the certificate, and you must have that endorsement letter from the Intersectoral program. And in addition to that, you must make sure that you're able to produce, when requested, the types of agreements you have in place between yourself and all the sites that you've applied for. So in terms of the value, and this is something that we've noted, it's kind of difficult to articulate, and it's difficult sometimes to understand, but this is how this is going to work, right? So payments will be determined as follows, right? So a person, a maximum value of 4,470 Rand will be paid out to per staff member. So I am applying for my staff in my program. This is how it works. I've got 5 staff in my program. I enter the names, I enter the ID numbers and everything else that you want me to enter, right? I'm verified, I'm confirmed, my bank account's right, my CSD is right, everything. Government will pay me a maximum of 4,470 per staff member. However, due to budget constraints, if I'm running an ECD center-based program, I can only get money for the maximum of 4 staff. So the value of what I get, it will be 4,470 Rand if I'm running an ECD center. And the value of what I'll get is 4,470 Rand multiplied by 4. So that's the amount of money I will get in my bank account. Now, if you remember, in my application form, I applied for 5 staff, right? The maximum of capped at 4 is just for government to be able to determine the amount it pays out. Once you get that amount in your bank account, you're not limited to paying it to 4 staff. Once you get the money in your bank account, you can distribute that money to as many staff as you want based on what works best for you and how many staff members you have. Government's not dictating how many staff you need to pay when you get that money. The only thing government's dictating is the maximum value that it can pay you, and they're saying this is how we're transparent, and we're explaining to you that we can only pay you a maximum of 4,470 Rand per staff member to a maximum of 4. That's what you're going to get from us as government. You can then take that money and use it as you need to for the staff members that you have. So there's a cap in terms of how much money you will get for an ECD program. There'll be a maximum of 4 staff. For a non-center-based program, unfortunately, you're only going to get a maximum of 4,470. You're only going to get an allocation to the value of 1 staff member. Again, if you have a playgroup facilitator and an assistant in your program, you can take that 4,470 Rand and split it how you choose to do it based on what works best for you in your program. Okay. Therefore, we say the income should be distributed amongst all employees within an ECD program. And just to remind you again that the funding can only be used for staff costs. I'm going to skip over registering on the Central Supplier Database because we're going to have a separate slot on that shortly with Sumaya. I'm gonna pause there. The rest of the slide just takes you through frequently asked questions, which you can read at your leisure. Tandeka, we can either take questions now, or we can go through Kayan's presentation on the application process now and Sumaya's on the CSD, and we can basically take questions on everything at once. I'm going to hand it over to you to decide. Thanks.
Thank you, Zahira. So we've had a few questions on the chat, but I see that Kayan as well as Sumaya have been attending to these questions, and a lot of them are also related to the CSD. I would really recommend that we move over to Kayan's Kayan's presentation. I'm not sure. I also don't see any hands raised. So I think we could really move on to Kayan's presentation. Kayan, are you ready?
Yes, Tandeka, I'm ready. Hello, colleagues. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you, Zahira, for that thorough presentation. I am Kayan Skoltz. I work with the DG Murray Trust. I'm part of the Project Management Office who's been supporting rolling out this application process. And I'm going to walk through the GovChat application form, which Zahira had quickly just touched on in her presentation as well. So to start with, there are 2 ways to find the GovChat application form. You can navigate to the Department of Social Development website, which is dsd.gov.za. And you'll see that once you're there, on the right-hand panel, there is a tab which at the very top says ECD Employment Stimulus Relief Fund, supported by the President's Presidential Employment Stimulus. So if you click on that, it will take you to the right page. Also, if you look here under latest news, it's also showing up there. But this doesn't move, so it's easiest to find it there. You click on that. It takes you to a media release, which explains a lot of the detail that Zahira has already been speaking about in terms of what this fund is, who can apply, what you have to agree to in order to be eligible to apply. All of that detail is clarified in this paragraph here. It is important to read just so you know what you're signing up for, because there are legal obligations that are taken on during the application process. Here you would indicate, it's indicated the priority that funds will be paid. So basically we will, if we receive more applications than there is funding available, priority will be given to particular ECD services based on this table here. What that is registered ECD services who are on the who have submitted registration certificates, as well as unregistered ECD services who are on the Bangasali database. And then poor wards, so basically ECD services that are operating in poorer wards within South Africa will be also prioritized in terms of receiving funding sooner. Yeah, and then these are the second order priority criteria. So basically, if you're not in those sets, then you won't be prioritized. Okay, that will only apply if people have not, if funds do not meet the demand. So if we don't receive too many, if applications don't outstrip the available funding, then we won't be prioritizing based on this table. In addition, as Zahira has mentioned, we will need ECD services to have banking details in the name of the ECD service. So not private bank account details, but banking details for the ECD service. And we will need applicants to be loaded on the central supplier database if they are not already receiving funding from a provincial Department of Social Development. And to be clear, what we mean by receiving funding is receiving a monthly grant from the provincial Departments of Social Development. Okay. In addition, there is a category of applicants who are running multiple ECD services. In the case that you're operating multiple ECD center or non-center based services, you will also need an endorsement letter signed by the Intersectoral Forum. You can receive that endorsement letter. You can download it. Let me just confirm where you download it. You can download it here in the right-hand corner. You can also, and then once you've downloaded it, you'll need to email rexmoteo@gmail.com or info@rexmoteo.co.za and ask Rex, the chair of the Intersectoral Forum, to confirm that your ECD service does in fact operate, does support multiple ECD services. Okay, then lastly, the actual link for making the application is this one here, the govchat.app. So if you want to go straight to the application, you can just navigate to this link. Okay, so that takes us to the GovChat page. When you're in the GovChat page, and sorry, colleagues, I will be circulated after this meeting, but there is a handy guide that Sumaya had put together to help people to walk through this process. So you'll see all the different steps that we've just quickly spoken about. To start with, you will be asked to input your phone number and you'll be required to send a verification code. Okay, so what that will mean is you'll have to input your current cell phone number, because this will be sent to you via an SMS, your code, and then you'll have to type in the code that is sent to you via SMS in these boxes before you can click login, right? So because I've already logged in, you won't see that on my screen. But you will, before you can get into your GovChat application, you will need to click send verification code, and you will need to indicate those 4 digits that you get sent. Okay, at the top of the GovChat app form, now GovChat, you can apply for SASSA things on GovChat, municipal things on GovChat, COVID-19 services on GovChat. But at the top of the page, you see ECD services. You'll see a couple of different menu boxes here. So the top one gives you an explanation of what the ECD, the presidential ECD employment stimulus is, right? So it will give you the details on the fund in that top menu item. Does my ECD service qualify will help you to understand whether or not your ECD service is eligible. So basically, if you check these boxes and you go next, it'll tell you if you qualify or not, right? So that's a quick qualification test. Then this is where you would actually make an application, and I'll go into that in a second. And lastly, the FAQs are frequently asked questions, which will allow you to look up, if you have a question, you can look up whether or not there is an answer for your question already, if you are curious to learn a little bit more about the fund. Okay, we're going to go straight into the apply for the ECD Employment Stimulus Relief Fund. As Zahira had noted already, this fund is, this website is data-free on MTN only. So if you are on MTN, this won't cost data for you to use the site. However, if you're on Vodacom, Cell C, or another network, it will be, you would require data in order to use the website. Okay, when you're making an application, you would need to, you're going through 7 different steps that we're going to be working through. The first step is to check your eligibility. You'll need to type your ECD service name. I'm going to put in a test because this is a fake application that I'm submitting. Now I need to clarify whether or not I'm eligible. So the ECD service on whose behalf I'm making the application has a bank account in the name of the ECD service. If that's true, then I click yes. Does the ECD service receive funding from the Provincial Department of Social Development? If that's true, I would click yes. If it's not true, then I would click no. Bear in mind, if you click yes and this isn't true, if you're not receiving funding, it will allow you to complete the application, but you will, at the back end, we will be unable to pay you if the provincial department doesn't have your banking information and can confirm this fact. So it's important to know, to be quite confident that you are in fact receiving funding from the Provincial Department of Social Development. Okay. If you're not receiving a DST subsidy, you need to be registered on the Central Supplier Database, which Sumaya will walk through in a few minutes. If you are unfunded, please select this option and enter your CSD number, which will start with the letter N. Okay, M. So what that means is when you make your CSD application, you will get a couple of different numbers from them. The correct one that you're looking for will start with M. If you're making an application here. So you could select that if accurate, and then this is where you would put in your Central Supplier Database number here. And then lastly, you'll need to confirm that you are the duly authorized person who's completing and submitting the application on behalf of the ECD service. So that means that you can't submit an application if the ECD service isn't aware that you're making the application on behalf of them and has given approval for that fact. Okay, now you will indicate who you are. If you're the owner, the principal manager, owner, or organization applying on behalf of the ECD service. Okay, so I'm gonna select these options, and now you see these, because I've selected these 3 options, I'm able to move forward. Because I've selected this as yes, that I do receive funding from the Provincial Department of Social Development, it's not asking me for a Central Supply Database number. But if I have selected no, then it will be required to have the Central Supply Database number. Okay, I'm going to move forward. Okay, here you would put in your name as per your ID document. And as Zahira was saying earlier, it's really important that you use the same name that has been used on official documents previously. So if your name on your ID book is different from the name that you would normally use, please use the name as it is indicated on your ID book, because this will be run through the National Population Register, and the only way that we can cross-confirm is the name on the ID book. So please do use the name as on your ID book. Okay. Here you would indicate whether this is a ID number, a reference number, or a permit number. Okay, so we do cater for different identity document types. ID numbers are for South African citizens. Reference numbers are for people who don't yet have their ID book, who have applied for it, and permit numbers are for people who are not South African citizens, basically. So here I'm going to put in a fake ID number quickly, just Oh, sorry. Okay. So you put in a example ID number. This is not, in fact, my ID number, so just everyone knows. And then you indicate if you want to use the logged cell phone number. If you don't, then you can add a new cell phone number. But if you do, if the cell phone number that you used when you logged in is fine, then you can use that cell phone number. But if there's a different cell phone number that isn't the one you used to log in that should be used, please enter it here. Okay. I'm just going to use the logged cell phone number in this case. Okay, so now you need to indicate the information of the ECD service, right? So this is going to be the address that your ECD service most frequently uses if multiple select one. So for an ECD, for a center-based service, this would be the physical location of the center. But for a non-center-based service, this could potentially be multiple locations, particularly if if it's a moving non-center-based service, in which case you would then enter, as it says, the most frequently used address, or pick one if there are multiple that are frequently used. Okay, so in this case, you enter the location. I'm going to, again, use the word test. You would select the location from this list. So it's not going to let you continue if you don't select a location from here. Right. So if I typed in something that doesn't exist, if it's not something that exists, it's not going to let me continue. So I do need to search an actual address here. Okay. Now it's going to let me continue. Okay. Then you would need to indicate which village, township, or suburb this address is in. So in this case, I'm going to say Cape Town. District. Okay, unfortunately, this is all the districts across South Africa. So this is not specifically it doesn't choose this based on what you've already input. So you'll need to know which district am I in. So is my ECD service in, to be correct. So for example, you could say the City of Cape Town Metropolitan Municipality, if you said Cape Town there. If it's outside of that area, you would need to select the specific district. And then the closest facility. The reason we ask for this question is that when conducting site verification, it can be helpful if there is a landmark or facility that is very close to your ECD service. For example, if a school or a South African police station or a clinic is nearby, please do indicate the name of that site, because that will assist with our ability to conduct site verification if needed, or to engage with the ECD service in future. Okay, is your ECD service fully registered or conditionally registered with the Provincial Department of Social Development? If it's fully registered, you would say yes. If it's not, if it's fully or conditionally registered, you would say yes. If it's not, then you would say unregistered, right? So you would either select the top or the bottom. You would not need to select both, because this one applies to registered or conditionally registered, and this one applies only to unregistered. So you would select either the top or the bottom, okay? If you select the top, you will need to upload proof of registration. So you would need to scan or take a photo of your registration certificate, either your partial care registration certificate or program registration certificate. You would need to take a photo of that and include that as part of your application. If your program is unregistered, you will not need to then submit that information. We will then match your information against the Vangasali database, or if you didn't apply as part of the Vangasali process, then we will conduct a site visit to support your application. If we can't verify that an ECD service exists, either because of a registration certificate, or because of a site visit, or because of your presence on the Vangasali database, we'll unfortunately not be able to complete your application. So verification is very important here. We do need to confirm that an ECD service exists before we make payment. Okay, so which one of the following best describes your ECD service? You would need to indicate what kind of ECD service you're operating. There are multiple different types of ECD service. We ask you to select the best fit. So you've got ECD Center, Mobile, ECD Playgroup, Toy Library, Child Minding. These are general categories. Please select the option that is the closest to your ECD service. So in this case, I'm going to select ECD Center. Here I'm going to select okay. What you'll notice is that if I don't do something at the bottom of the screen in red, it will tell me what I need to fill in order to continue. So once I've done that, it will allow me to continue with my application. Okay, step 4. So now you need to enter more information about your ECD service. So the first question is, does it have an NPO registration? I.e., is it a nonprofit organization registered with the Department of Social Development? If yes, you'll need to enter your NPO number. If no, then you don't need to select that. If you're receiving a subsidy on a monthly basis from the Provincial Department of Social Development, you would select yes. If not, you would leave that blank. Does your ECD service have a CIPC number? If yes, you would select that and type in your CIPC number. If no, then you don't need to type in a CIPC number. Okay, and then when was the last month and year in which the ECD service was operational? So this is a question, if your ECD service is not currently open, you would select when it was last open. You can move through the months using the backwards button or forwards button, obviously. And then you can select which day in the month to indicate when specifically it was open. If it was like the 17th of December that your ECD service was last operational, you could put that there. If it's currently open, you could then put, you know, the dates today, basically. So that would be the 9th of February. Okay. Is your ECD service currently open for children to attend? Yes. Then you would indicate what days it's open. If not, then you'll have to indicate what days it would normally open. So is your ECD service currently open for children to attend? You can select, you know, the days of the week that you are able, that you are opening. So if it's Monday to Wednesday, oh, this is not working. So Maya, how do we get this to scroll through to Thursday, or was it not possible on the, there we go.
Just scroll to the, no. Do you want to just go big again, just so people, and now scroll to the right.
Okay, for some reason scrolling is just, oh, there we go. So shift and scroll works for me. There we go. So colleagues, you'll need to, if you're on a laptop like I am, you'll need to scroll using shift. That's what's working for me. Or if you can use your central mouse button to scroll, you might be able to use that to scroll. But basically you'll need to scroll to indicate what days you open. You open from Monday to Friday, and then you'll need to indicate the hours that you open. So for example, 7 a.m. to 4 p.m., for example. Now, because not all ECD services operate, you know, the full way from Monday to Friday, for example, you would also need to indicate how many days. So, you know, maybe it's only 2 days that you actually operate, Monday and Friday. If it's all 5 days, then you would indicate 5. If that's not true, then you wouldn't indicate that. Now, if you're not currently operational, you would indicate, you need to commit to reopening within 60 days. So this, again, is the same question. It's basically when will you be open when you reopen? So you, again, would indicate Monday to Friday, and you would, again, do 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. as indicated previously, and then 5 days, for example. Okay. Does your organization run, manage, or supervise multiple ECD programs? So this is only applicable in the case that you are a large organization that runs multiple ECD services. So for example, Kotlins or Elru are examples of organizations that run multiple sites. You will be required to submit additional information if you are one of those organizations. So for example, here you would indicate how many ECD services you support. It might be 10. You would need to upload the ISF letter of endorsement, which I've indicated you can download on the Department of Social Development website. You would also need to then indicate your NPO number, and then you would need to upload your NPO certificate. So those are additional steps that would be required if you are an organization that runs multiple ECD services. Okay, and then if your ECD services was assisted to make an application by an NPO, i.e. if your ECD service had support in this process, you can type in the verification code of that NPO. If that NPO doesn't know anything about a verification code, don't worry, you don't need to do this. This is just for services who are receiving funding to support applications. It's our way of being able to confirm that you've received support and that an NPO service should be paid for that if necessary. However, you know, this is only for very targeted areas, so this is not something that everybody will be required to do. So you don't need to then select that option if the NPO service hasn't indicated that it's required. Okay, children who will benefit. So basically, this is the number of children who are going to, when your ECD service opens, benefit from the program. If you're currently not open, the number here you would give is the number of children who will benefit from the program, not the number 0 that you might currently be working with. So you indicate, you know, this would be potentially maybe 30 children. If of those 5 are 0 to 18, 10 are 18 to 3 years, 15 are 3 to 4 years, and then none are 5 to 6 years, you would indicate it like that. The number of children who have disabilities might be 2, and then what is the capacity of your ECD service? So how many children can you cater for? This is basically the total number you would normally cater for under normal circumstances. So you know, maybe it's 40 there. Okay, here you would indicate the total number of employees you're applying on behalf of. Now remember, Zahira indicated that we have that application funding is based on the number of staff at an ECD service with a cap depending on your service type. So if you're a non-center-based service, then the cap would be 1. And if you're a center-based service, then the cap would be 4. Now, if you indicate here 5 employees, then you'll have 5. If you indicate 16, then you'll have 16 employees details. So there was a question in chat earlier about how many employees can I submit? My understanding is that theoretically, this is unlimited. You can apply on behalf of any number of employees that are in your ECD service. For times, but for the, you know, make sure that we just have a limited amount of time, I'm going to just do 1 employee for now. Okay, so this is including yourself, remember that. So even if you're only 1 person in your ECD service, you do still need to indicate 1 here. And that's, you know, if there's 4, you would need to indicate yourself plus 3 additional people in this list. Okay, so again, we do the same information we were doing earlier. Name as it appears on ID document, initials as it appears on ID document, last name as it appears on ID document, type of identification, the ID number, which we used earlier. Okay. Gender, okay. Race, South African racial group. Highest level of qualification. There was also a question earlier about, does this, if I don't have a particular qualification, does it exclude me? No, this has nothing to do with whether or not you'll receive payment. Note that it says highest level of qualification. So everyone has a highest level of qualification, even if it's, you know, grade 9 or primary school. So this could be matric. If it's matric, it could be, you know, NQF4, etc. Cell phone number. Okay. Job in the Early Childhood Development Center. So this might be that I am a teacher, and when the person started working. So that's when they started working at that ECD service. the first time, not now. It's when they originally started working with you. Okay, and then is this employee the COVID compliance officer? So we're requesting that every ECD service indicates who in their ECD service can be a COVID compliance officer. A COVID compliance officer is somebody who will be responsible for making sure that your ECD service follows COVID compliance protocols. And there is funding specifically allocated for that. And so what we are trying to do is make sure that every ECD service has a COVID compliance officer. So please, for one of your staff members, indicate that they will be a COVID compliance officer, so that we know who within your ECD service will be taking on those additional responsibilities. What those additional responsibilities are will be communicated throughout the course of this process, just so you understand what that person's responsibilities should then be. Okay, lastly, so we've done all 6 of the steps. Now we just need to agree to the terms and conditions of the fund. So it's important that you read through these in detail, because this is a legal agreement that you're entering into with the department. So I suggest you do read through this quite carefully. There are a number of different ones. I'm not wanting to go through them in detail now, but you would need to select all of them in order to submit the application. Here, basically, this is regarding your financial processes within your ECD service. So you either have to indicate, if you click on the privacy terms and conditions, this tells you, if I'm selecting item 1, what am I agreeing to? If I select this one, what am I agreeing to in terms of that? And then if I select the second one, this is what I'm agreeing to, right? So you need to decide, am I an organization that has effective, efficient, and transparent financial management and internal control systems? If so, then I select the top one. If not, then I agree that basically I agree to this, which is the second option there. So if you don't have the top, then you would select the bottom. And then lastly, you have to indicate that you're agreeing to submit an amended Form 16 as part of your application. So that is already, this whole application has already collected the information that is required for an amended Form 16. So you will be submitting a Form 16 if you check that box and to make the submission. Finally, you would click next. Okay, so now thank you for submitting. You know your submission is completed. Here's your reference number that you can use as a reference number for your application. Also, if you have any inquiries, you can phone the call center on that phone number. So now you know your submission is completed. Take note of this reference number, record it, and keep it, because then you can use that to follow up on your application at a later stage. That is everything in terms of the application process. Back to you, Thandeka and Zahira.
Thank you, Kayan. Thank you for the presentation. Colleagues, so there's one hand up in the chat that I've seen so far. I don't know if it's still there. I think it was Beauty. I think we should take some questions now. We should just pause, take some questions before we get into Somaya's presentation. Somaya is going to be talking about...
Okay, let us wait for number.
Can we please mute ourselves? So Somaya is going to be talking about the CSD. So I think all questions related to the CSD we can park for now, and then we can just have a go with them a bit later. For now, I'd just like to take the 2 questions from the 3 participants, and then I'm just going to summarize the quiz. So I'm just going to provide a summary of the questions in the chats, particularly around registration and technical issues and so forth, and then we can take those after. So Beauty, can you please go ahead and ask your question? Beauty?
Hi, everyone. Thank you for the... Yes, hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for the opportunity. I think I've asked a question, but I remain a bit confused in that my question was, I only registered as an NPO. So the one answer was, I need to register on DSD as a partial provider. And the other answer was, you don't necessarily need to register to be eligible. So I just need clarity on that.
Okay, thank you, Beauty. Zahira, Zahira and Zahira, we can't hear you properly.
Zahira, if you're struggling with your mic, I can take this one.
Okay, can you please take it, Kai? And in addition, I think there's a question around the process. So people are wondering, do we need to apply first for the funding before we start the registration? And I think just some clarity around, you know, the whole registry. Are we applying for registration fully, or are we just committing to register ourselves?
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Thandeka. Okay, so thank you for that question, Beauty. Basically, so MPO registration is useful in this process, but it's not required. So you don't need to be registered as an NPO. You also do not need to be registered with the Provincial Department of Social Development as a partial care or program. So if your ECD service, is unregistered, then you can still make an application. So the question is, did you apply as part of the Vangasali process? If so, please use exactly the same name and then any additional details that you used as part of that Vangasali process, because that will allow us then to confirm that you did participate in the Vangasali process, which will ease the confirmation process on that side. If you didn't participate in the Vangasali process, you are still eligible. However, unfortunately, the Vangasali applicants will be prioritized. However, because you are still eligible, the provision will be made for a site verification visit where an NPO partner will come through to your ECD service and just confirm some details with you, and then you would still be eligible for payment after that. So I hope that answers that question. And then Thandeka, the second question you asked regarding the process. So we went a little bit out of order just in terms of your process. You would want to submit a central supplier database application if you are not already funded by a provincial Department of Social Development, receiving the subsidy on a monthly basis. So if you're not already funded, you would want to submit a central supplier database application before you complete the application process that I just went through. So Maya will take you through that in a few minutes. I think there might have been another question there, Thandeka, but I might have forgotten.
No, I think with regards to registration, we've covered everything. Thanks, Kai and
Thandeka.
Colleen, can we take your question after that, Wendy, and then Mangoba?
Before that, Thandeka, can I add on what Kayan was saying regarding the registration? Yeah, the NPO registration, it's needed for an NGO that is applying for a multiple ECD services. That's where the NPO is needed. But for the ECD services, they don't have to register as NPO. I just wanted to make that addition.
Okay, thank you, Mpho. I think, Wendy, this might answer your question, but we'll get to you now. Colleen, can you ask your question quickly?
Thank you. Thank you, Thandeka. I did put it in the chat, but maybe I missed the answer. If practitioners were employed at a site in March 2020 before lockdown, but because of significantly reduced returning children, they are still waiting to go back to work, can we apply for those staff members, those practitioners?
Okay, thank you, Colleen. And I think in addition to that, Kayan, Zahira, Sumaya, and Mpho, there was a question around the qualification. So does the qualification of the practitioner matter? If they don't have qualifications, can they still get funding?
Do you want me to come in, Thandeka?
Yes, please, Kayan.
So thank you for that question, Colleen. It's a really good one. So the provision has been made. We recognize that ECD services are often not operating at full capacity currently. The format in the policy document is that an existing employment contract needs to be in place. So, for example, if the people who used to work at your ECD service had an existing relationship and that relationship can be reactivated, then yes, you can apply on behalf of those practitioners. So these are practitioners who will continue to work at an ECD service, but unfortunately it's not on behalf of new practitioners. So what that means is if your ECD service is closed and practitioners have left and you aren't able to, you need to hire new ECD staff, it's not specifically for that. It's for people who used to work at your ECD service to return to work. I hope that answers that question, Colleen. And then, sorry, that second question you'd asked, Thandeka, regarding the qualifications. So yes, the qualifications piece is part of the abridged or amended Form 16, which is part of the application process. So that information is required purely to initiate the registration process. It is not in any way related to eligibility. So no matter what qualifications are indicated for individual staff members, they are still eligible to receive payment as part of the fund.
Thank you, Kai. And another one that I think I should raise at this point will be around bank accounts. There was someone who asked in the chat that she has a personal account in her name, trading as the name of the business. So I'm not sure if she'd be able to apply with that one, but perhaps we could clarify that here and now. I know Zahira had mentioned that, they're still going through a process of actually understanding the bank accounts. And in addition, colleagues, if you are able to respond, we've also had practitioners who say they have bank accounts, but with the post office, and they're not sure if those would be, if they would be able to get paid into those bank accounts.
And would you like me to respond?
Yes, please.
So in terms of the institutional versus private bank accounts, so basically the question would really be, are you currently receiving funding from a provincial Department of Social Development? And if not, then you'll need to conduct the registration on the Central Supply Database. And it's really dependent on whether or not that passes banking verification. That would determine whether or not you would be eligible. Basically, the rule is that it sort of needs to be banking details in the name of the institution that you are applying on behalf of. So that's the rule that we've set. In terms of the trading as question, I would try to submit the CSD application and confirm if you pass banking verification on that system. And if you do, it should return that relatively quickly, usually within sort of 24 hours, slightly longer if it's a less well-known bank. Then you should feel comfortable to apply. However, if you don't pass banking verification on the Central Supply Database, then you would need to get institutional banking details, specifically in the name of your ECD service.
Thank you, Kai, and thank you. So Maya has also clarified that we can use post office bank accounts. So colleagues, I would just like to move on to Wendy then. Wendy, will you please ask your question?
Thank you, Thandeka. So we are an NGO and we work with multiple ECD centers in the community, but we are not registered as an NPO. We are registered as a trust. Can we still be able to apply on behalf of the centers that we work with, as many of them will not have access to the internet? Can we still apply for them, or they need to do it themselves? Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy. Thank you, Wendy. I would just want to ask, because I know Kay had a few questions on these. Kay, would you like to add there, or does Wendy's question cover your question?
Hi, Thandeka. Thank you. I would like to possibly just add on to that, and just my apologies because I've been having bad network, so I don't know if what I'm asking has possibly been answered, so please bear with me. From my side, we were just looking at it from a registered NPO wanting to apply on behalf of the ECDs we work with. So I know certain components have been covered, but I just have a few questions related just to the practical way to apply. So one of the questions is that in terms of getting that letter from the Intersectoral Forum chairperson acknowledging the application, I think Sumaya has answered that, where she says you don't need the template before registering on the CSD. But my question around the CSD is that the NPO that's registering on the CSD, so the uploading of documents there would not relate to the actual ECDs. And I think throughout the process, my question is it the NPO's details that we are capturing, and then this template that we're getting from the Intersectoral Forum chairperson, would that then list all the ECDs? Or, and I also understand that we then become the administrators for the fund should we be successful. But just to clarify, the question is, when you're applying, is it in the NPO's name? And at which stage do you actually have to attach all of the ECDs that you look after, or is that information you readily keep on hand for when and if it's approved before you administer the funds? I hope that makes sense.
Okay, does that make sense, Kain? Kain, would you
It
be
does.
able to
It makes a
respond?
lot of sense.
Okay, cool.
I think Zahira might come in on this one. Zahira?
Yeah. So firstly, I'm going to use myself as my organization as an example. Right? I work for an organization called Ilifa La Bantwana. We are registered NPC. Our job is full-time around focusing on early learning and making children have access to early learning. I know of lots of ECDs around us. We work with many. My question to myself is, am I eligible to apply on all these ECD services that I currently support with various things? The way I understand this is, no, I can't, because firstly, while I'm an ECD NGO, I am not directly involved in supporting, monitoring, or providing oversight to ECD sites directly. I'm too far removed. I don't have a direct relationship with an ECD site. The requirement is that I need to be able to have a written agreement in place with an ECD site that's been in existence since March 2020, I think was the date that flashed up. And that type of written agreement has got to be I have with you, with the ECD site, what's the nature of my relationship, just to be able to secure the fact. So what we don't want situations where any NGO applies on behalf of a whole lot of sites when the sites don't even know that an application was put in on their behalf. So the only type of NGO that's eligible to apply is if you have a long-standing relationship with an ECD site over a period of time, and your relationship is governed by a written agreement that's been in place since March, to demonstrate that you and the site have a long-standing relationship, and that you're providing continuous, ongoing mentorship, coaching, support, training, resource development, resource packs, whatever it is. But there's got to be a very clear relationship between you and that site, and that relationship has got to be an ECD focused and specific type of relationship, and it's got to be governed by a written agreement. And I'm sure, well, maybe that sounds tedious. I mean, it's really important that we make sure that whoever's applying on behalf of multiple programs has the best interest of those sites at heart. So that's the type of program that can apply. That ECD program, NGO, has got to have been themselves, have got to have been in existence for 3 years. They've got to get a recommendation letter signed off letter from the Intersectoral Forum. This is the Intersectoral Forum to put in that extra check. Yes, I know of Kotlin's. I know Kotlin's performs this type of function, right? Because while the sector is diverse, the sector also, everyone, not everybody, most of us know of these big NGOs that provide this type of service, especially, again, those governed by that type of relationship. So therefore, the Intersectoral Forum, through its networks, must be able to endorse and say, yes, I know the site, I know they do that specific type of function, therefore we can say they can apply on behalf of X amount of programs. The technicalities is that the organization that's applying is the organization is getting into the contract with the state. So the application form is a two-in-one. It's an application form where you're applying on behalf of the sites, but the application form also serves as a contractual function. So if your application is approved and you're eligible for money, that application form thereby turns into a contract. Therefore, you are responsible for making sure that whatever you signed up for, you are contractually liable to make sure that whoever you signed up for to get that money gets that money. You are the one that's accountable to the state to show that you've disbursed that money to those programs, and you are responsible for collecting all the information, making sure all those commitments, so all the commitments you signed up for around the registration and reopening, it's your responsibility to make sure those sites meet those commitments. So that said, you're the one that contractually liable. So while you put your information into the center supplier database, you put your applicant information in the form, you are liable to make sure that all those sites comply with reopening, with registration, with reporting, that the people listed gets the money and the employment contracts in place. All that onus in the reporting side falls on you as the person that's contracted to do this. The technicality of how it's done, how the forms are completed, that is something that I'm going to ask Kyan to address if that's still needed. Thanks.
Thanks, Sumaya. Well, Kyan, will you respond now? I think we should rather respond now.
Sorry, Tandeka, can I just have the question re-clarified? Otherwise, I'll respond fully.
It was the technical issues. Zahira, do you want to just clarify again?
Yes, so Ms. Earth, one of the questions was around like how do you actually fill it if you're applying on behalf of the organization. But I'm saying if that's been responded to, we don't have to take it now, or we can take it later.
Okay. Thanks, Zahira. Did you get that, Kyan?
Sorry, there was a bit of interruption, but I think that it might have been responded to already. If it hasn't been made clear, please do type it in chat and I'll respond there. Otherwise, if it gets raised later in the conversation, I'm happy to respond again. Okay,
thank you, Kyan. So Kyan has also just sent a message on the chat that there has been technical issues that have been received over the weekend, and it seems as if this is something that has been attended to. I know there's a host of technical issues that have been reported in the chat, so I think that should solve that. Thank you. Mangoba, can we have your question? And then Tozama, when we can move on.
Hi, Tembi. Hi, Tandega, sorry, man. Ma'am, my question is this. Is this payment a once-off, or the government has got a bigger wallet, it's going to go on for a number of months?
Thank you, Mangoba. My understanding is that it's going to be a once-off payment. Right, Kyan?
Yes, Tandeka, that's correct.
Okay, thank you. Tozama. I think Tozama. Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Tandeka. I was going to ask the same question that Mandla asked. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Mandla, I think you're the only one who's left.
Hi, Tandeka.
Yes.
Yes, thank you. My question to Kai, it's in regard to the employees. Hello? Hello?
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Mandla. You can continue.
Yes. In a scenario whereby employees that has been with us, say I've got 3 employees that has been with us for the past 5 years, but due to ill health, they were not able to come back to work, and then I had to therefore replace them or employ other employees for the past 2 months to replace the ones that who are not sort of like able to come back to work. Are these new employees that have been with me for the past 2 months eligible for this funding?
You employ Mandla, as long as you've got some kind of agreement or contract of employment or whatever arrangement with them that you can show that they're in your employ, then yes, they are eligible.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Zahira. So there was one last question in the chat that I think we could share with everyone just to avoid some confusion in the future. Someone says she has registered, her school name had to change, but the bank account name still has the old school name. So she's not really sure how to continue with the CSD application. Which details does she use? So I think it's a bank account issue. I'm not sure, Zahira, if you'd be able to come in there.
I'm trying to understand the question. So it's saying basically it's a case of a name change and therefore the bank account and the name of the site isn't the same. Is that, am I understanding the question?
Yes. So it used to be something playgroup. Now it's something school.
Okay. Kyan, I don't know if you, I'm not sure. I don't know, Kyan, do you know how to respond to that, that specific issue?
So thanks for the question. So it was from Raihana. So my understanding is that you will need the same name on your bank account and your ECD service. So I would recommend, if possible, changing the name on your bank account if it's old, because basically in order to prevent fraud, what we're going to need to do is confirm that the information associated with your ECD service and the information associated with your bank account are in fact the same. Otherwise, there's a risk that applicants could, they could apply without institutional banking details using another organization's institutional banking details, and that is a potential for fraud. So I would recommend trying to change that over the next week or so that you can still submit your application prior to the deadline. I know that is not ideal from your perspective, but just in terms of the most likelihood that your application will be successful, I would make that change.
Thanks, Kyan. Colleagues, I think we are done with the questions for Zahira and Kyan's sessions. We should now move on to Somaya's presentation, and then we'll take more questions after that. Somaya, are you ready?
Yes, I am. Tandika, how much time do I have?
Okay, so our meeting is due to end at 12:30, so you have about 15 minutes, 20 minutes.
Okay, that's a bit impossible. Okay, I'm going to try to go. It's double the time of Kyan's. All right, so I'm going to try to be so I think, look, colleagues, I think this is what we'll do. I'm going to try to be, the CSD process is, kind of the most complex one in this whole, process. So I'm going to try to be as quick but as thorough as possible, Tandeka. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so colleagues, it's Sumaya here from the Nelson Mandela Foundation. Now, there's been a lot of information and some of your heads might be spinning to say, okay, there's a lot of information. I'm still not sure where to start. So as Kyan said, your first starting point should be the Department of Social Development homepage, www.dsd.gov.za. I then go to the right-hand side of my screen and I press the ECD Employment Stimulus Relief Fund page. Now remember, if you are funded, so in other words, if the ECD service is currently receiving funding from the Department of Social Development, you can proceed directly to GovChat. The press here to apply goes straight to GovChat and put in an application. You do not need a CSD supplier number. However, we know that the majority of ECD services in South Africa are not funded by the Department of Social Development, at least in my estimation. So what you do here is in the section that says Central Supplier Database, this paragraph here, you will see a link to CSD. Press on that link and it will take you to this page. Now, the CSD is in two parts. what you have to do is you first create an account on the CSD website. So to do that, you press on the link, as I said, you put your email address, your name, and your surname. So now remember, a lot of you are organizations, you are trying to help the ECD services that you work with. So make sure, they can almost have like a checklist before they come to you. Tell them, okay, can you set up an email address? And can you set up an ECD service a bank account in the name of the ECD service? If they have those two things, an email address and a bank account in the name of the ECD, they can then proceed with their CSD application. So they'll put their email address, the name, the surname, the cell phone number. You'll create a password, confirm the password. You put in a security question. You can choose anyone here from the list. Then you need to do this. Basically, this is just to make sure that it isn't a computer making the application, and make sure when you are doing this, that you are doing exactly what it is here. So for an example, it's a capital V, capital letter V, then an 8, then a capital letter H, then a small letter D and an 8. But it will be customized. So every time it will change depending on who is making the application. Now, once I press register, it's then going to send a link immediately. It should be immediately to your, and by the way, please make sure South African supplier is selected here. So I filled out this page. It's going to send a link to the email address that you put here, asking you to verify, is this in fact your bank account? Is this in fact your email address? You press on that link that they sent to your email. It will bring you directly back to the CSD website. It will then say, okay, please, I want you to validate your cell phone number. You'll then, Tendeka, please can you silence, put on mute the people? There's a background noise, please. Make sure everyone is on mute. Thank you. So once you validate your email address, they'll bring you back to the CSD website. They'll then want you to validate your cell phone number. So make sure you have your cell phone with you. Make sure the ECD service that you're helping has their cell phone number, cell phone with them. It will send a cell number. It will send a 4-letter OTP to your cell phone. Just say it's 1234. You put in the 1234, and then you would have created an account. Now, when you create an account, you will get a registration number. That registration number is not a supplier number. The supplier number will start with the letter M. So remember, when you create the account on CSD, you will get a number starting with the letter R. Now that is not the supplier number. That's just your reference number for now. Okay, so now I've done that. I've created my account on CSD. Now what do I do? Okay, so that's the process I'm going to be taking you through. So you come back to the CSD website. Now remember, to create an account, you go to register. But once you've gone through the process that I've described, you already have an account. So now what you want to do is log in. So now I log in. I put my email address. I put the password that I had created. I then type this out. It's capital E, it's a 7, a J, a Q, and a G. So capital, can you see capital and small letters? Make sure you do it accurately. Otherwise, it won't let you go past the step. I then press login. There is a guide for this, but yeah, I'm hoping we can be able to, for you to understand with this demonstration. So now I've logged into my account. What do I do? At the top left here, there's a tab called supplier details. I press the supplier details tab. Now I've created test accounts. You won't have these things written here. You will just have this icon here in green saying add supplier. So all I do is I press add supplier. Now when you see I press add supplier, all these tabs came up. Now I need to fill out these tabs, and at the end of filling out these tabs, at the end, I will then get my supplier number. Now, not all of these tabs are compulsory, but I'll talk you through what is compulsory and what is not. So what I am going to show you now is the very basic that you need, the minimum that you need in order to get your supplier number. So on the first page of identification, they want to know, what type of formation am I? Now, many of you will be NPOs, in which case you will put non-NPO Department of Social Development. If you're a company, you will press CPIC. Or the only other option is that if you are an unincorporated body of persons. So for an example, some of the organizations might be a voluntary organization. So if I press a voluntary association, if I press unincorporated, then by supplier type, I must press voluntary association. But I'm going to put in the application as if I'm an NPO. They want to know then my NPO number. I'm going to put my NPO number. Now here, it's really important, make sure the number, I know on your NPO certificate, it is written a bit differently. It's written as, with a dash, or there's a bit of a space like this with the word NPO. Don't put it in like this. Make sure you're only putting the number itself. Then they want to know what is the legal name. So I'm going to put Test ECD Center. And again, here, I'm going to put Test ECD Center. So Test ECD Center is the name of my organization, and it's my ECD Center, and it's the name that I have my bank account details in. So for an example, I did a Test CSD application, but my banking verification was denied. Why? Because this information that I put here under my legal and trading name didn't match my bank information, because I just, as an example, I tried putting my personal bank account details, but it rejected it. Okay, so my legal name, I put my trading name, country of origin, South Africa, total annual turnover. I'm going to put here 10 million Rand or less. Most of you will put, I'm sure, if not all, will put here 10 million Rand or less. They then want to know, what is my financial year start date? So I'm going to press over here, and I'm going to, see this arrow here? I'm going to move here. If if the 1st of March is the first year of my financial year date, then I just press here 1st of March. I'm going to unclick this because I don't want any associates link to this account. So I'm going to unselect this, and then I press save. So it's loading. Now I want to take you to my overview tab quickly, because I want to just show you something. The overview tab, if I go to it now, it'll show you that I can't even submit an application. Why? Because there's these big things in a red cross that I have not completed. So if you're not sure about whether information is necessary or not, just go to the overview tab, the last tab here, to check. There mustn't be any red crosses. Okay, so now I'm going to go back to the industry qualification tab, which is the second tab. Now, all of these tabs are quite straightforward in terms of the information that you give. The only tabs is the industry classification and the commodities classification, that just make sure you write what I'm saying down, or Tendeka after this is going to circulate the guide that says what you must put here. So for the second tab, industry classification, I'm going to press add or edit. Now here in the search function, I can just search for, I just put the words EDU and search, or I can scroll down here and it says education. So let me actually just, I just put EDU here and I searched, and education comes up. Can you see this little arrow here? I press it for this to come. This basically wants to know is, from the money that you make, how much of the money is from this activity here around education. So I'm going to press edit, and I'm going to assume that all of the money I make is from education, which most of you is the case. So I can either move, can you see this little dot here? I either move here to 100, or I can use the arrows and scroll all the way to 100. Okay, then I press save. Sorry, we're doing this live because I wanted to show you. So just give it a minute to process. While we're waiting for this, so I'm sure most of you will be on Tandeka's get Tandeka's email, so you'll get the guides. Maybe I can ask Kayan in the meantime, he can attach the guides onto the chat as well, just in case there's anyone that's not on Tandeka's bulk email list. Okay, so I've now done this. Now I go on to my contacts page. My contacts, it's the same contacts that I had entered here, so I don't need to do anything. You only need to, if you want to have another contact detail here to the account, but we want to keep it as simple as possible, so I just move on to the next. I then go to address, and I go to add address. So now I'm going to add the address of where I operate. I'm going to say physical address. I'm going to put here, I put the address here. I'm going to put, okay, I'm in South Africa, my province, my district, municipality, my city, my suburb, and my ward. They want to know my postal code. Cool, I put my postal code. They want to know if it's my preferred address. I go and I click. Great, address is done. Now for bank. When you go to bank, you're going to say add bank account. Now, just to reiterate, Zahira did say this, but just to be sure, okay, actually, sorry, hold on, I'll tell you now. Is the identification number linked to this account? I'm going to say yes. In other words, this is what I'm saying yes to. I am saying yes to the fact that I have a bank account under the name of ECD, in the name of ECD, in the name of Test ECD Center. And at the bank where I have my bank account, just say I have a bank account at Postnet, they have my email address that I opened, they have, my ID number that I had put in the identification tab linked. So basically when they do bank verification, they will do the bank verification against the ID number that I had put in the identification tab. I hope I'm making sense. If it's not, okay, yeah, so I put yes here. Okay, so I put my email address. You're gonna put, you put your account holder here, the name of, if you have a current account, the bank, just say I have First National. So I'm gonna put your account number and you're gonna put your branch code, right? After you put these details, make sure you have your cell phone with you. You're gonna put request OTP and it's gonna send you an OTP to your cell phone that you put here. As soon as you put it here, you will press save and it will save it. So okay, so I'm just gonna skip this step. Actually, you know what, sorry, I'm just gonna, okay, yeah, no, it's fine. Let me just skip this step. So I'm just gonna say cancel here. But you obviously would put it in and then everything will be fine. Then when I go to tax, if you registered with SARS, you're going to select it here, you're going to have it pressed. Can you see here? So are you registered with SARS? I say yes, and I put in my details. If you're not registered with SARS, you just deselect this, you press save, and you move on with your application. That's all you do. You will get these red messages here, contact SARS. Don't worry about it. Just move on with your application. Now they want to know who are the directors of and members or owners of this organization. And it says here, if you are not at a CIPC, please complete this. So I'm an NPO, so I'm going to go here to this green tab that says add directors. And I'm going to put here I'm going to put the ID number, the name, the surname, So let me put your, okay, I'm gonna put, they wanna know what is my, I'm gonna say I'm the owner and the date of my appointment. I'm gonna say that I was, you know, that, you know, this is, when can I say I was okay, so if you want to change the year, okay, let me just show you this quickly. Instead of having to scroll all the way to the year, you know, 2015, you'll just press the, you'll press here and then you had pressed the year, and then I'm going to put here, what year, 2015. That will make it easier. Anyway, appointment date, okay, it hasn't changed. Let's try. Oh. Okay. All right. I'm sure when you work it, it'll. Okay. So I think maybe you can just, this is not important information in terms of when you're appointed. So I'm just going to put here hold on. Okay. Yeah, there we go. So what I did is you don't have to use this. You can just enter the information here. So I put the year 2000 and January from the 1st. They want to know my cell number. And then they want to know, is this person the owner? I'm going to say yes. And they want to know, okay, how much, remember this is an NPO. So I'm just going to say 100%. They're going to know South African physical living under the area of where I live. So I'm going to put Rivera, the ethnic group. I'm going to say I am colored, I'm female, and I'm a young person. So I'm going to press save. Oh, can you see it's already giving me this message? This field is information and it's required. So because I didn't put my gender, it didn't allow me to move on. So I'm going to put here female and save. Okay, save. Oh, see, it's not letting me move on because I hadn't had this information. Cool, I now have it. Now I press save. Oh, see, they want to know the exact area. Just put that save. Okay, now it's letting me move on. Okay, so now I've done the directors tab. You don't need to do associations, so you can skip that. You can go on to commodities. Again, all of this is in the guide. You're going to go to add commodities. The only two things you're going to be three things you fill out here. For ECD, basically what they want to know here, right, is because there's people that are, you know, other companies that fill out this application that provide lots of different commodities. That's why they want you to put the name of your commodity. But a lot of you will just be providing ECD services. So you can just say, I just put your ECD services in Gauteng. I don't need to put a description. Now for segment, what I do is in the search function, just search the word EDU again and press on education and training. Then for family, press educational institutions. So segment education and training, then family education institutions. Then here, where it says elementary and secondary schools, can you see this little arrow here? Press the arrow and it will give you lots of options. Now, many of you will be this preschool education services. So you press here, but you'll see the one that's most appropriate for you. You'll press here and then you'll press add. And I'm going to do save and continue. When I do save and continue, they basically just want to know where does this operate, where does this particular service is provided. I'm not nationwide and nationwide, and I'm not province-wide. So I just says here, Gauteng, City of Johannesburg, and this is selected, and this is correct because it picked up my address on my address when I filled out the address column. So I press save, save. Okay, great. Commodities are done. Users, the users, I don't have to put anything. It's the same. Notifications are just the notifications, so don't worry about that. Accreditations, don't worry about that. And remember, if you're not sure about what is compulsory, go to the overview tab. So now if I go to my overview tab, It's saying that my bank, remember, I didn't put my bank account. It's asking for the bank account. And the only other thing that I need to put in is this BEE. Okay, so let me go to the BEE. If you have a BEE certificate, you can upload your details. If you do not, you can just press none and save. Great. Now I can go back to my overview column, and now you can see it is, you know what, let me do this. I'm gonna stop my screen share quickly. Let me just put in my bank. I want you all to get like a proper demonstration of how this works. Let me just put in my bank details in this bank column, just so that you can see what it looks like full. So I'm just gonna stop my share quickly. All right, hold on. You can't see my bank tab, right, Tandeka?
No, we can't see
You're
it.
safe, Sumaya,
Okay,
don't
good.
worry.
Don't worry, if anyone wants to transfer money to me, I will more than happy make it available. But just for now. Okay, so now I put in my bank details. It sent me an OTP. So I'm putting in the OTP. Great, and I'm saving. All right, so let me just start my screen share again. Share. Okay, great. So now can you see I'm okay, so can you see I'm now on my overview page?
Sorry about that, Sumaya. Let's just mute.
Okay, can you see now I'm on my overview page and it has everything. I don't have any red crosses. That means I can submit. Oh, no, yeah, let's see if I can. Okay, I can't submit yet because even, sorry, colleagues. I can't submit yet because even though there's no red crosses, it's giving me this, this notice here. Can you see a physical and postal address is required? This orange. Can you see the orange says fail? So hold on, let me go to my address column and see what the problem is. I can go to edit. This is already there. So I'm just going to go. Can you see the edit tab? Let me go edit. Oh, I see. And I'm going to go. Remember before when I was filling it, I only pressed preferred address. I'm going to go and press everything now and press save. Now I'm going to go to my overview tab. Let's see. It should all be fixed. Yes. Can you see the orange disappeared? Now the green button for submit is appearing. So I'm going to press submit. And can you see as soon as I press submit, where are we? As soon as we press okay, hold on. I think it's this application I made now. It gave me an MAA number here. Can you see the supplier number? So it took me back to this page here with the supplier details automatically, and it gave me a supplier number. Remember, your supplier number must start with the letter M, and it will be 11 characters. So now that I have my supplier number, I can proceed with my GovChat application and put in all the details and make an application. So as I said, there is a guide. I hope that helps. And I'm going to hand back to Tandeka now.
Thank you, Sumaya. So that was pretty quick. I think we have questions, and I'm going to open up the floor for questions now. And I think there were just a few other comments on the chat as well. Lauren has had her hand up. Lauren, can you please just tell us what your question is?
Hi, my question is, I tried to go on yesterday evening to register because I'm not registered on the DSD database as a recipient. And when I did that, hello? Hello?
I think you can go, Lynette, sorry about that. There's someone who keeps on muting themselves even when I mute them. Okay, you can go now.
Tandeka?
Okay. Lynette, please continue.
Okay, thank you. What I was saying is yesterday I went and I registered, you know, the first part to go on.
Lauren, you've been muted accidentally.
Okay, I'm okay now.
Okay, no, you're not.
We can hear
And
you.
People keep on unmuting.
okay,
Sorry,
and I
colleagues,
registered
please
yesterday and
mute.
it was,
Sorry about that, Lauren. I'm very sorry about that.
okay.
Please continue.
Can I continue?
Yes, please.
Okay. What I was saying is yesterday I registered on the DSD database because I was not a recipient or a supplier. And that was successful. But I waited for an email to come through, which never did. So, and I keep looking, and I even cleared my box, my email boxes so that it's not full or anything like that. But I still haven't received. So I thought I'd go back and I'll go and do it again. But it says you are already registered.
So Lauren, what you should do is log into your account on the CSD website, go to that supplier details column. It says supplier details, and then it should say there, if you have a supplier number, it will be written there under in the supplier details.
Okay, so where do I actually go now?
So go log in, go to back to the CSD website, log in.
Yes. Yes.
Then press the supplier details tab.
Okay.
Your MA number will be there. Don't worry, I know you didn't get an email. As long as you have your MA number, you can apply. You can take the MA number from there and make your GovChat application.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, are you covered, Lauren? Are you fine, Lauren? Okay, thank you, Lauren. Thank you, Somaya. So there aren't any other hands up on the on the participants, but there were a few questions on the chat. One that's been recurring from Sonia. So this one's not related to CSD, but I thought we could cover it since it's she's been asking it for some time now. But how will employees be able to confirm that the employers have applied, and how would they know once the money has been received, and how can they make sure that the money would actually then be used for salaries? I'm not sure who'd be able to answer that, colleagues.
Kyan, are you here?
No, he's not. So what? But at the moment, there isn't a set system in place to be able to do that. But there are a couple of proposals being put forward to DSD. But at the moment, there isn't anything. But there are some ideas and thoughts, but none of that's been confirmed yet with social development. At the moment, there isn't a very specific mechanism upfront to be able to do that. The only mechanism that will be built that's standard at this point is the after the fact process. Once you put in an application, once you get your money, you're putting the names down, there's a monitoring and reporting system which is after the fact. It's an important point that you raise, and with what I'm saying is something we are discussing with social development around how do we, make this known so people know the money was paid out, etc. But nothing's firmed up yet on that front.
Okay, thank you, Zahira. I hope that covers that question. There was a question, Somaya, regarding how long it will take then for a person to have a CSD number. I think 2 people had asked this question.
So yes, Tendeka, as I said, as soon as I press submit, I got my my supplier number. So it was immediate. So remember, I created an account, you get a registration number. You then log into the CSD system, you complete the application like how I showed you. As soon as you have everything and you press submit, you will get your MA number.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Samaya. Okay, so we have two hands up. Sanele, if you could give us your question, and Lynette, I'm not sure if you haven't lowered your hand yet.
Good day, everyone.
Hi, Sanele.
Yes, my question was with regards to the guide that Sumaya said you are going to send to us. So will the guide contain every step that Sumaya took us through?
Yes, it will. It has everything step by step. Yeah.
Yeah, because
Maybe
I
if
got lost there when you were going through the CSD.
oh, okay, sure. Sorry
Yeah.
about that. But yes, the guide will have everything.
Okay. Okay, not a problem. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And then there was another question from Zina. It was quite lengthy. Zina, I don't know if you would like to ask your question so we can get clarifications here. Zina?
Hi there. Sorry. Thanks. Yeah, my question was actually answered. Thank you so much. I just got a glitch on that on the page with the directors because the like none of our directors are owners because we're a non-profit, so there is no owner. So I was just a bit confused, but I've made the treasurer 100% owner as per the example that was shown. The only other thing that's clashing now is the BEE because that person is the demographic is different to what the BEE says. So there's a little bit of a glitch there, but I've managed to sort it out, so it's fine. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Tandeka, can I just say one point? Remember the BE, you don't need, the BEE is good for CSD registration, but for the purposes of DSD's application, it's not necessary. And also one more point, Tandeka, if I can raise. Remember CSD, I know someone referred to as the CSD as DSD's database. CSD is run by a National Treasury. It's not a DSD platform. So I just wanted to make that point.
Okay. All right, then thank you, Sumaya. Another question there was from Pumeza. She's asking, what do we write on behalf of those we assist in terms of email? Because some beneficiaries don't have smartphones and some beneficiaries might not remember login details as they're elderly.
Look, I mean, there's two things you can do. I know one of the organizations that are assisting, they are first helping their beneficiaries open up email accounts. The reason being is that you through the email address, the verification is going to be sent there. If there's any problems with the bank account details that aren't verification, they'll also email you. So you just need to have an agreement in place with the ECD service. By agreement, I just mean a verbal agreement. So if Tandeka comes to me and saying, please help me with my application, I don't have an email address, but I agree that, you can use your email address. You know what I mean? There must just be an agree. You two must just agree, but then just make sure that you are using that person's cell number so that at least there is consent. You know what I mean? So that because the OTP will get sent to that person's cell phone number.
Okay. Okay, I think that's clear. Thank you, Samaya. And then I think there's questions around technical issues based on what Samaya has just presented with the tabs and things like that. But Samaya, my understanding is that there is a call center that is able to assist, and probably an email address on the guide that you're going to provide us with, right? So
yes, there is a call center.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, there is a call center. But yeah, I do suggest just look, I know we all when we stress sometimes we rather ask someone than read. I just before calling the call center, just make sure you go through the guide properly. If there's anything you're not sure about before you call the call center.
Okay, thank you. Rahina just wanted to confirm the steps. First, register on CSD, then everything else is done on CSD. Then you can go to GovChat. My understanding is, yes, if you are not on the CSD database already. So meaning if you're not registered with DSD.
Tandeka, just one more point.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, if you are currently receiving subsidy from DSD, you don't have to go to the CSD website.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you for the clarification. Lynette, your hand, Lauren, your hand is still up. Can we take your question?
Sorry, Tandeka, can I just emphasize the point? That's what came up in the chat. So I think it's we've got to emphasize the point that it's not just if you receive any government funding, right? You've got to also, someone asked about nutritional funding from Department of Health, for example. If you get money from other sources of the state, it's best just to still register on the CSD. This requirement is saying if you're not getting money from social development specifically, then you need to register. So even if you get money from other parts of the state, you still need to register, right?
Okay.
Thanks.
All right. No, thank you. That clarifies it. I hope we all got that, colleagues. So as long as you're not getting funding from DSD, then you'll have to register, even if maybe you're getting money from the nutrition program and other sources of state funding, you'll still have to go into CSD. Okay. Colleagues, I don't think there are any other questions or hands. Lynette, I've asked you, I'm not sure if you just maybe forgot to lower your hand. I'm assuming you maybe forgot to lower your hand. Okay, Fikile has a question. Perhaps we can just round off with Fikile's question then. Fikile?
Thank you so much. I'm glad that I'm the last one because mine is not really a question, but an appreciation that this has been made so clear, and hopefully when we go back to the site, we'll be able to follow the steps through. But most of all, I would like to remind that to please send us the presentation because a number of our members from the forums were not able to join since the number of participants had been reached, the maximum number had been reached. But all in all, it was a lovely presentation and quite clear. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I see the hands are starting to come up. Okay, colleagues, we are almost towards the end of the meeting. So really the last two questions, DK Lady and Natalie. DK Lady, can you shoot quickly?
Hi. Good morning, colleagues. So I think it's afternoon already. I think I might have missed this one, but when do we expect the payments? When should we expect them? I think I might have missed it.
Okay.
I think, oh, okay, then Zahira wants to, okay, Zahira?
Asma, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, no, I was just gonna say, so this money that was made available to the presidential, through the presidential stimulus is for this financial year. So all the transfers will have to be done by the end of government's financial year, which is the end of March.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you, Somaya. Natalie and Manas.
Yes, I just want to find out quickly, when I go through to the banking details on the profile, it says that I need to contact the service. It's not working. And then the red icon comes up and says that something isn't right. But it's all my banking details that normally go in. What do I do from there? Do I have to call the service center to sort it out, or how do I sort it out?
So sorry, what is it saying?
It says that I have to contact the service.
Is it just a note? As in, is it
like a red pop-up?
Yes. So everyone, sorry, I think I said it with one of the other tabs. Sometimes you'll see red pop-ups, like, when we did the BEE page, it will say, know that you can't, something like this won't like allow you to be a preferred something. So sometimes you might get these red pop-ups. If it's allowing you to move on with your application, then it is fine. So some of them are just warnings. Like, for example, on the tax one, we didn't have a tax. And then when we press on the tax tab, if we said we're not compliant, it says contact SARS to obtain a valid tax clearance certificate before award. That's not allowed. It's not preventing you from moving on with your application.
When I go through to the overview, it still has the red cross on the banking details. So
Okay,
then
no,
it
then
won't go
something,
through to close.
yeah, no, then
To
something's incorrect there.
successful.
You can maybe just get my details from Tandeka. So Tandeka, maybe what we can do this, and sorry to put Tandeka on the spot. Look, it's going to be difficult for me to, tend to like 100 queries on CSD. But if there's particular main challenges that people are having through Tandeka can just send me to me, and I'm very happy to assist whoever needs urgent help.
I just wanna check one more thing.
Thank you.
On the banking details, can I do trading as my name and trading as, or does it have to be the school's name? Can I not just put my name trading as, because in my bank account, my school is trading as that name?
Natalie, my understanding is that you would need the details of the ECD center on the bank as your banking details. So
Yes, but
yeah. So and I also just
says
want to
trading
add to
as.
that,
Will that
Natalie. Sorry, Natalie, we've reached the end of the meeting and we unfortunately don't have time for questions anymore. I think your question has come up. We're going to collate all of the questions and answers that are within the chat and share with them to all the participants. So this would be a good time to actually put in your email address in the chat so that we are able to reach you. So I would really encourage participants to do that right now, colleagues, so that you are able to get the information and you don't miss out on anything. We unfortunately can't go back, especially to things that we have already discussed. At this moment, I would just like to ask if Ms. Mpopa Pale could just give us some closing remarks before I officially close the meeting.
Hi, Tandeka, hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear
Oh,
you.
okay. Yeah, in closing, we had a nice session, and thanks for the PMO for clarifying, and also as we are working as a team, and also partners, thank you for attending this session, and we're looking forward to as many applications as possible, and also looking forward to working together as a team and improving in terms of our ECD services and also looking after our ECD employees. And remember that this is all for all the staff members in your ECD services. It could be a practitioner, a cleaner, a gardener, the one that you will be recommending in terms of the payment. And for queries and questions, you are welcome to contact us in terms of clarification, and also to call the toll-free number that is provided if you have any other questions. And we are available to assist as a PMO and also as different stakeholders, different NGOs that will be at your local and also at provincial level to assist. Thank you very much, and have a lovely day. Thanks.
Tandeka, do you mind if I say something in closing?
Please go ahead, Sumaya.
Sorry, Tandeka. I just want to say, so look, I know there's this is a new way of doing things for the department in terms of there being online applications, and I know that some of this might seem a bit complicated. Once you go through the guides, it'll make things a lot easier, and the process in terms of making it seem simplified. So even though some of you might be feeling all overwhelmed, just have a look at the guides and work through it. And once, I just encourage all of you, as soon as you have an understanding, please make sure that you get the other ECD services around you also to be able to apply and share your knowledge.
That's it, I'm finished.
Wow. Sorry, little Tots, can you mute yourself? I'm struggling to mute you here. Okay. Okay, so Maya, sorry about that. Are you still there?
Yes, I'm done. But yeah, I was just really encouraging people, please share your knowledge, get as many ECD service to apply. Yeah, thank you so much, Shandeka.
Okay, thank you, Somaya. Thank you, Somaya, and to Zahira, Kayan, and Paul. Thank you so much for making the time to come and address the Bridge ECD COP. So we will be sharing presentations, colleagues, and collating all of the questions. We'll try as much as we can to have those questions, additional questions that you might have answered by the officials that were here in this meeting today. So that brings us to the close of our meeting. Just to reiterate what Somaya has said, colleagues, we have to help each other out. I think Alice raised the issue of people who will not have access because, you know, this is an online process and so forth. But we are asking, we're really appealing to members of the COP, members of the ECD workforce, ECD community, to just reach out to people who you definitely know won't be able to have this kind of access, you know, and help out with the applications. You know, if you have the resources, the technical resources, and the know-how, particularly for elder members of our community, of our ECD community, we're asking that you do just that. And if you have any ideas on how Bridge can support you in this, except through financial ways, obviously, but we would be very much willing to hear you out and see if we can work together to continue assisting each other. The closing date is the 19th of February. Important to remember. So we all have to have our hands on deck to ensure that as many people apply. Thank you very much, colleagues. I'm officially closing the meeting, and we'll see you soon at the next ECD COP. Thank you.
Thanks, Thandeka. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Close the meeting, Thandeka.